Alright everybody, we're looking at the installation of new earpads for the Studio, or the Beats Studio 2.0 headphones. This is the wired version, or wired version. Now the wired and the wireless installation, exactly the same. They're the exact same headphones despite the wireless or the wired. So earpads are the same. This is what you're going to get in the package. You have two earpads, protein leather, nice and soft, with their adhesive tapes on the back that you're going to remove. You also have two extra adhesive tapes, just in case you make a mistake. Now, on the back of this earpad you can see it's a little bit kind of yellowy. That is adhesive that they use to attach the sponge to the back of the earpad. It hasn't been used, it's not dirt, it's adhesive, and when you look at the front, this is what matters. Everything looks clean, everything looks good. This is going on the back of the earphone anyways, so if you think it's dirt or it's faulty or something like that and you want to return it for something else, there's a chance that this could happen on any of the earpads. So there's nothing that you can do about it, it's just the way it is. Looking at the headphones, we have our earpad that's on and our earpad that's off, and I'm showing you this now because I just want you to know that what you're going to be getting into is you have the plastic frame out here that protects all the insides of the headphones. So when you start using this knife to pull off this earpad, you don't have to worry about cutting anything or anything like that. It's all going to be safe underneath that plastic, so no worries there. Now, knife. Reason why we're using a table knife or a butter knife and not a screwdriver. We do not want to use a screwdriver because a screwdriver is very narrow, and the tip, when it's narrow and you're going to be putting it in to the headphones like so to pull off the earpad, something that's really narrow applies more pressure to a small area, and that's going to cause possibly a crack in the actual outside of your headphone, and we don't want that. So you want something that's wider, like this, so that when you put it in, that pressure is dispersed across a larger area, and there's a much lower risk of possibly cracking the headphone while you do this. Now, obviously, you could crack a headphone a number of ways. You could use too much force, etc. This is not foolproof, but it is much, much safer, and if you follow the instructions that you're about to get, you should be fine. Alright, removing the ear pads. We're going to fold one arm away to focus on the other ear pad. Now the first thing you want to do is know that the adhesive on the original ear pads by Beats is really strong. They buy and make so many of these headphones that they can specialize the adhesive. So the adhesive they have on here, you can't get it. The adhesive you're going to be using on the new earpads, it's not as strong as the ones from Beats, and that's because you simply can't get it. So it's still strong, it'll still work, but it's not like this one. And that gives us a little bit of a problem when we take them off, because when you start taking these things off, they're stuck on really, really well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go around this earpad like a clock, gradually releasing it from all different areas until you can get your finger underneath it, and then you can just kind of pull it off nice and slow. So you're going to look for the wedge. So right in between this purple line and the white earpad is where I want this knife to go in. So it's going to be, I'm going to pull the earpad away as best I can. I'm going to slide it in there. So that's in. Now I'm going to give it a little wiggle and lift. And then I'll take it out. I'll follow it. Well, I won't take it out, but I'll move around. Wiggle and lift. Wiggle and lift. You can hear the adhesive coming off. Wiggle and lift. Now I'm at the point where I have a big gap and I can just pull it off. Okay? So, important to note, this was already a replacement earpad. It was not the original earpad, so this came off quite easy with the knife. It didn't fall off by itself at all, so it would have stayed on there for when you're using it. But the actual proper earpad will be harder to take off, so you will have to go around it more, and it might take a little bit more time, but take your time anyway. Now, once you're done removing the earpad, you're going to look at the plastic, and you look all around the edges here. You see this black kind of like fuzz stuff here, and that black there, that's the adhesive that came from the earpad. we want to remove as much of that as possible. So you can go around, you can use your finger and just rub it off, or you can use a cloth. This doesn't have very much adhesive on it, or remainder of adhesive on it, so it's not going to be that much of a deal anyways. If I just get that spot off, it should be fine. So this here, perfectly acceptable to put on a replacement. And looking at the other one, same thing there. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the plastic frame of the headphone, and what we want to do is match these ear pads up to those two frames of the headphone. So you can see a distinct difference here. There's a gap in this one right here. That means that it can only go on one side. That is the side that has this on it. Okay, so the second thing we want to match up is, besides that little gap there, we have these holes. So you're going to look at the holes on here. There's two knobs, little plastic knobs. That's one of them. And then there's one up here, that's two. Those two knobs need to be matched up into the right holes on here. So when you take off the adhesive tape and you apply it, you're going to use that little gap to line it up, and then everything else should line up with it. And then it'll go on like so. So next step is to take the adhesive tape off. We want to check the holes first to make sure that there isn't any excess of the adhesive over top of a hole, or any of this tape stuff that wasn't cut out properly. Sometimes you might have some remnants left over. You want to clear that out. So in this case here, all the holes are clear, good to go. I'm going to take off the adhesive tape, or the tape on top of the adhesive, just like so. There we go. Get me my ear pad, line that up. You can see it's gone together, and you can see up here it has also gone together. If the knobs, the little plastic knobs, had not gone into the correct little hole, you'd see a gap in here, a little one. It has gone on correctly though. Now, just because it's on doesn't mean it's stuck. What we need to do now is apply quite a bit of pressure to make sure these things stay on. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around with our thumbs like so, and we're going to push pretty hard in there to make sure that adhesive is sticking and sticking into that little gap where we placed it. Now you can push quite hard on these headphones without breaking them. The important part is pushing in that one spot with both fingers at the same time, and the rest of your hands being behind it while you do that, because that will make it so that you're not breaking anything. The back of your hands will resist, will squeeze rather than you just pushing through the headphone. So we're going to push, still push around. I would suggest doing this for about a minute on each ear pad to make sure that it is stuck in there properly and you've given enough pressure to each point on the ear pad to make sure that that tape is down. Because as I mentioned before, the adhesive tape we're using, you can't get the stuff that the Beats uses themselves, so we're using an alternative, and the alternative is good, but it's not as good as the Beats stuff. And this extra pressure will help make sure that it gets stuck and stays stuck, hopefully. Right, so there we go, that's on. A little bit of a test here. So far it's sticking on. Next test we're going to do is hold it. It's sticking. Hold it somewhere else. Still. Still. The final test is going to be after you actually wear it, or when you leave it overnight, to see if that tape is going to release gradually. Usually it won't. Sometimes you just get some bad tape, but most of the time it doesn't. However, you do have the extra tapes here to try and see if that will sort it out for you. I'm going to give it one more pressure push, just for bonus. Don't worry, you're not hurting the ear pad or the memory foam. That'll all spring back into place. No problem. So that's one. On to number two. So number 2 is a little bit harder to attach because there's no little gap to help you actually line it up. So what you're going to look at is the bottom. You know that's the bottom because it has the line. And if we look here, we're going to have the 2 little dots we need to get these plastic bits into. It's easiest to start at the bottom to get that one in, and then the other one tends to follow along. As you can see, it's in already. So start down here and line that up. It's almost exactly lined up with the audio input. So now that we know where we're going to stick it, we can take off the adhesive tape. Peel that away. There we go. Line this up with our little knob here and our hole right there. And can you see that? There we go. Took a little time on that one. Again, apply that pressure, lots and lots of pressure. We're not trying to crush it, but we are pushing pretty hard. You want to make sure that you're pushing down and out. Down and out, because the adhesive tape is sitting on the very outside of the rim. We're going to make sure that we spread it or get the whole thing touching down onto that plastic frame, because obviously the more that adhesive tape, the more area that adhesive tape is touching and holding onto, the better these are going to stick. So we're going to push into it and then press out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Your thumbs might get a little bit tired. But other than that, you should be happy with the end result. New ear pads. And back to listening to some tunes. Okay, so let's do a little test. Actually, we'll do this test first. That's working. We can look at the sides here. They're all stuck in. There's no gaps that I can see. And it's not falling off. And now we're going to do the other test. You can do a little pull on each side. It's a good idea to go around and give it a little pull and see if you see that little separation here, because that would mean obviously that the tape hasn't stuck as well, and maybe that's because you haven't pushed down into the ear pad at that point as much as you have at other points. So one last time, we're just going to go pushing into the ear pad and that tape just to be sure. Right, I don't think you can get more stuck. And there you go, finished product, brand new, time to wear them. Now obviously, if you have any questions about doing this, feel free to email us beforehand, before you start. It's accessoryhouse@btinternet.com.